it. Okay. Okay, so heading down to your mat, and just adjust, I think the laptop may make it easier, may not, we'll see how we go with that. So we're on week 2 and it's the hippie week. So we're working our way kind of up the body from feet to, we're quite a way up from the feet and we're onto hips. So finding your way onto your back. I know people are still arriving. So we're just finding our way onto the back, Caroline and Catherine. Yeah. So just finding your way when you get prepared. So just seeing how it feels to be on the back. You might feel like, oh no, I want to fall asleep now. You might feel really comfortable. You might be struggling to find comfort in your back. So just make any adjustments that support you. And once you're down, just wiggle your feet, wiggle your toes. So you're just conscious of the feet on the ground. So going back to this connection with the earth, this connection with our feet, getting a little bit of freedom in the toes, a little bit of suppleness underneath the feet. As we just kind of wiggle the toes, then we'll get a bit of a sensation, not just in the feet, but higher in the body up through into the back of the calves. The knees will be moving, the thighs will be moving. So that sensation just moves through the body. So just feeling that, so that you kind of also, as well as finding the ground, you're also just trying to find a little bit of looseness as well in the body. And then just relax the feet, so the feet can be still now. So broadly speaking, the feet are hip distance apart. We're just going to try and get a little bit more of a connection between the heel, the knee and the hip. So if you just take the, if we work with the right foot initially, so just take the toes off the floor and just give a little bit more pressure through the heel. So you really make that connection between the heel, the knee and the hip. Yeah, so it'll feel different from the opposite leg, the left leg, that's just sort of sitting there waiting for action. So just see how that feels to create a little bit of pressure. So again, that is not just the heel, it's the whole of the structure and the alignment around that structure. And it goes in quite deeply into the hip probably. And you also might feel just on that movement, you're also starting to use the core. So we're not particularly concentrating on the core, but that can never be forgotten. And notice what's happening in the lower back. So is there an arch in the lower back? Is it different on the left to the right side? Does it feel tense on the right side because you're giving that pressure through the heel? Okay, then just let the foot return to the earth. So, and just notice what happens. So sometimes when you release the pelvis down and the hip into its socket a little bit more clearly. So now the left side, so just picking the foot off, just picking the toes off the floor and pressing the heel into the ground. So there's that sense of a little bit more pressure, sense of connection, might have an interesting feeling around the knee. We're closing a little bit more on the back. And how does that link with the hip? How does the hip link with the pelvis? How does the pelvis link with the lower back? What happens to the breath? All these things. How does it feel different on the left side and the right side, given we've already worked on the right side? So the right side already has that connection, so you might still feel that connection on the right side. And then let the foot return back to the earth. Let the breath come back, and just for a few rounds, just create a little bit more of an arch on the lower back as long as that feels comfortable, so the back will arch and the belly will extend up slightly, and then bring the lower back down to the floor, and you can almost pick your bum up a little bit just to get that real grounding for the lower back, and then rock forward again on the pelvis, create the arch in the lower back, and gently opposite lower back down, bump slightly off the floor, just so you give a bit more pressure through the lower back to relieve any tension there. One more circuit or one more flow into rounding the back, and then, sorry, arching the back and then rounding the back. And then just come into your new neutral, which might be the neutral you left, or it might feel a little bit different. Yeah, so that was reasonably strong rather than a light movement. We were taking the lower back into the floor to just really get connected with the lower back and the connection with the ground. Okay, so we're going to just let the knees move from side to side. Yeah, so we're just going from side to side, whatever distance you want, but not really to the floor. You can just effectively, you're rocking across the pelvis and just seeing how that loosens the back, how that feels on the pelvis. But you can still feel that connection between the heel, the knee, the hip. So we're just really trying to feel what the bone structure is like and what connections we make. And it might be different when we move the body from side to side. That connection might go adrift or just feel very different in that different movement, in that different way of moving across the body rather than forward and back. And then stillness again in center. So just make sure that the feet aren't too far away from your butt. So that's difficult to gauge, but basically it's like the lower leg and the upper leg resting against each other, like two cards against each other. So again, that might not make obvious sense, but just see what that feels like in your body, make the most sense as you can. So this is a really small movement, but I'll try and explain it and hopefully you'll get this. So I want you to press the right foot into the floor and press and take the knee up more towards the ceiling. So your butt slightly comes up off the floor on the right side, but only slightly. So is that pushing away through the foot, through the right knee, drifting away, and then just let it come back down and rest. And then push into the left foot on the ground and let the knee slightly push away. So the butt on the left side just slightly lifts and the hip and the pelvis lifts. And now rock from side to side. So it's basically you're walking, an exaggerated walk on the ground. So it might feel a little bit weird. You'll get a little bit of feedback from the pelvis in movement, the hip in movement, as the knee drifts forward and the foot gets a little bit more of a connection. So again, we'll feel heel, knee, and hip connection, but this time it's in motion a lot more through this kind of walking, loosening in the center of the body. So see if you can breathe here sometimes, because there's some tension being created through the movement as well. So it's good to feel the support. If you're feeling too tense, just bring yourself back to finding the breath. And you're just rocking from side to side on each hip and each pelvic half. In the same way, in a way as we were rocking with the knees from side to side, slightly different sensation for you. And then be still. And see how you feel again, see if you feel in the pelvis, see if you feel in the lower back, any kind of implications further up the body from that movement. Can you really feel connected in the bone structure from the knee upwards and the knee downwards? And how's it feeling in the legs, the back of the legs, the front of the legs? Okay, so we're going to just take the left ankle across over the right thigh, so just below the knee. And we're going to open the fingers and just take the thumb and the forefinger at the top of the thigh. So it's like you're pushing away your thighs so that you can lengthen through your lower back. Just take your belly in slightly as well. So you feel really long through the back and really connected to the ground with the pelvis. And from there, just make sure that your ankle is supported, stroke kind of, to do this, just bring the toes a little bit more in towards the knee, or just dorsiflex the ankle. So that, again, there feels a connection now before we move from the ankle to the knee and the knee to the hip. And then let the knee drift away a little further if it'll drift away a little further. It probably won't have a lot of space. And we're trying to keep the pelvis stable this time. So we've been rocking before, but now we're keeping the pelvis stable, but we're moving the knee and the hip joint away, as long as that feels safe for the hip and the knee. So just 2 or 3 times more, just taking the knee further away from you, and then let it drift back, take it away from you, and let it drift back. So for those of you who are really flexible, keeping the ankle dorsiflex and keeping this sense of the hands here will give you a little bit more stability. So not, some people are really open but not so stable, and other people are overly stable and not so flexible. We're looking for a little bit of both. Okay, and then just relax the shoulders now. So we're going to sweep the hands now through to the, on the right leg, just to the calves. So we can bring the right knee closer in towards us. So we're getting a little bit more stuff going on more. Really, it's more in the piriformis in the bum, more in the kind of IT band rather than necessarily in the hip, but we're just getting that sensation. You can bring your chin to your chest to protect your neck a little bit here, and you can breathe. So hold for a couple of breaths if you can. If there's discomfort in the knee, then just create again dorsiflexion, flexion the ankle to get a bit of support in the right side as well. And then relax, take the foot back to the ground, unhook yourself and just give a little bit of a shake through your legs. So just legs in the air, maybe arms in the air as well. Just give a little bit of shaky kind of vibration-y thingy. Let the breath be free. And then we'll do to the side. So bringing the feet down, let them land, and then taking it'll be the right ankle this time across the left thigh. Get the hands ready, so the thumb and the forefinger kind of cupping around the top of the thigh, let the thigh drift away, let the lower back come down, get that really stable, and then dorsiflex or flex the ankle and take the right knee away from you a short distance to just create a little bit more opening. Feel the connection between the ankle, the knee, and the hip. And again, if this is just too much, just come back a little bit, or don't do any movement. Just see how it feels in an open position, wherever you are. So about 3 more times, just take the knee away and relax it. Take the knee away and relax it. You also feel the connection between the left knee, ankle, and hip, probably here as well. And then second part of the phase, reaching the hands through to the shin of the left hand, bring the chin to the chest, flex or dorsiflex both ankles, and just bring the knee slightly closer in towards the body, keeping the tail broadly long so that you got a little bit of resistance and a little bit more length through the spine, even though you're actually trying to get a little bit of work going on in the back of the thigh, back of the bum. Won't get into everybody's areas. Some people that will feel strong, other people you won't notice anything going on. So creating stability as well as creating a little bit of openness there. Great, well done. And relax the leg down. Maybe didn't stay quite so long on that second side. So extend the legs out now, see how the legs feel. And let the arms just be free by your side. And maybe rock a little bit side to side, butt to butt. So you can just loosen up in a different way. See how that feels. Brilliant. So bringing the knees in towards your chest now. Take your hands to your outside of your heels, so little toe side, and bringing my chin to my chest and pushing my hands into my heels and my heels away into my hands, so I'm getting stable again through, so particularly through my pelvis, sacrum area, so a little bit stabilizing there. And then I'm going to take the soles of the feet towards the ceiling, more happy baby. And again, if you're comfortable pressing the hands into or fingers into the side of the foot, then just give that a little bit of pressure. If I really like it, some people won't like it, so just take it as you feel you can, so a little bit of pressure there. And then if it's comfortable, then take the hands inside the legs and back into the heels. And again, just press down through the heels and hands into heels, heels into hands. So knees are out to the side a little bit more now. Great. And then cross the legs, cross at the ankles, and just rock up to sit up and extend in front of you if you've got space. Rock back. And you can come on to broad empty shoulders and then rock forward if you feel comfortable with that rocking motion. If you don't, then just do mini rocks or just to protect your back of your neck. Don't go right into the neck. You can do it with really minimal work. So you're getting the knees to externally rotate a little bit, and you get a little bit more openness in the hips just through a little bit of momentum. So a couple more for you. into this rocking and moving forward. If you're not, just obviously just wait for us. We'll be with you in a moment. One more. And we're going to be heading to all fours next. So next time you're up, then just find the ground and come back to your hands and knees for the first time. Okay, so just see how things are now we're on all fours. How's it feel in the hands? So fingers slightly separated, just to give a little bit of openness, so you don't force the fingers apart, but a little bit of space. How's it feel in the wrists? How's it feel in the inner arms, outer arms? You feel like your chest is just gently lifting from the ground. How's it in your belly? As your belly collapses, you get finding just enough support so you know you can both breathe but feel like you've got some helping center. How's the inner thighs, outer thighs? How's it feel in the butt? So you'll probably get a little bit of feedback from the butt from what we've just done. So just into cat-cow for a few times. So we can start with cow for a change. So dipping down with the belly, chest forward and look forward. And then creating that round in the back as the pelvis dips under, crown of the head comes towards the floor, and just moving betwixt and between. You choose whether you want to flow, whether you want to do a really gentle movement, whether you want to put a little bit more effort or intensity to the movement, making sure that the back is getting support rather than overly tensing. So if there's issues for lower back, then it's usually really nice to get that rounding of the back. And just find your own rhythm. You can use the breath. As you bring the belly in round, that will usually for most people be an out breath. And as the belly comes down, chest comes forward, that will normally be an in breath for most people. But you find what you need to support you with the breath. So 3 more cycles. And then just pause for a second. Give the wrists maybe a little bit of a shake, just to get the blood circulation back and give the joints a little bit of a rest and rejuvenation. Okay, so might be easy to watch, I'm not sure. So for what we're doing here is we're bringing the toes, coming onto the toes of the left foot, and the toes are halfway between the heel and the knee of the right leg, and we're sitting back. And then we just come back to all fours and we sit back. Next time, we pivot around on the toes to take the knee out externally, and we sit back. And then put the knee back down and we sit back. Yeah, so hopefully you've got that sense of that. So go back to the first movement, onto the toes and just sit back. Knee back down and sit back. And then the second movement with toes pivoting out so the knee can go out, sitting back, taking care of the knee, doesn't suit everybody. And then leaning back. Second side, so coming onto your toes halfway between your knee and your heel of your opposite leg and sit back. Release the knee and sit back. Externally, so toes, pivot round, externally sit back, release the knee and sit back. Toes just knee coming forward and sitting back, relax the knee but sit back. Second time, knee out to the side, sit back and then resting to sit back. One more time, forward, knee forward and back, rest and go back, external rotation, go back, rest the leg, then go back onto all fours. Okay, so we're going to go up into down dog, and we're going to do a little bit of opening through the side body by opening the leg out and upwards towards the sky. And we will be coming to pigeon, but I think we can probably do this together. I'm just conscious of time as well. So tuck the toes under. Let's take the hands slightly further forward so that we've got that space. So this time the shoulders are back from the wrists. Toes are tucked under, bottom back and reach back, lengthening through the spine. Come forward, shoulders over wrists. This time we're going back, knees are coming off the floor, and we're just seeing what it feels like to go into our first downward dog. Bum to the ceiling, sitting bones up, and then just walk the dog for a moment. Let's just get a little bit more flexibility before we do anything else. So just see how it feels to lower one heel down and then the other heel down. So we may have got a little bit of space there. Through some of the external rotation, what that does is it creates a little bit more opportunities lower down in the leg from the opening, from the external opening. Okay, what we're going to do now is going to bring the right knee in towards the chest and then take it up, back and opening kind of in the hip flexor. And then we're going to bring the knee into pigeon. So bringing the knee to the same ankle, and then you know where you're heading with this. I think everybody knows where they're heading, so it'll be up to you where you take the shin, whether it's back or in line. Tuck the toes under if the toes aren't tucked under. Go down to come up to release that leg. Well done, it's hard the first time. Push back, and then opposite side, so opposite knee in towards the chest, knee back, knee up towards the sky to open up, and then knee to the same wrist, come down with the shin in front or maybe at a diagonal angle. Just pause for a second. Well done. Toes tuck under, go down to push up to release, back into walking dog. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come down onto our knees. We're going to come down onto our belly. We can put our hands so that we can just put our forehead down on top of hand on hand. Relax the shoulders, relax the breath, and just feel the earth from the belly. Feel how it feels on the front of the thighs, on the front of the legs. See if you can still feel that connection between the ankles, the knees and the hips. It'll be different from this position. Might not be as clear. Okay. So let the belly be soft for a moment. And see how things are going. See how it feels in the hips. We've done quite a bit of external rotation. See how it feels in the knees. Sometimes it's the knees that restrict us, not the hips. Sometimes it's a bit of both. Sometimes it's neither. So bending the knees now, bending both knees so the soles of the feet are heading towards the ceiling. The knees are hip distance apart. And just let the legs go one way and then the other way. So windscreen wiping the legs this way and see how that goes. So we get again a little bit of movement in the hips and the knees and the ankles going side to side. And then come back to center and do the circle. So it's like drawing a circle in the sky. You take the feet in one direction, both going in the same direction, doing those circles. So we tend to do one leg at a time. And this time we're doing two. See how that feels. So for some people that will feel easier, for other people it will feel a bit like it's a bit too much momentum going on. If you don't like it, then slow it down or leave it out. Then swinging to the direction. Brilliant. And then relax the legs down. Bring the hands underneath the chest, push yourself back into or onto all fours. Knees are hip distance apart. Take your hands again slightly further forward from your shoulders. Take your bum back as far as you can, so you're lengthening through the spine. And then come forward with your pelvis. So your pelvis is heading towards the ground, but keep the arms long to create a downward facing dog. And then take your bum back again for a break. So when you come forward, you need to be able to keep your belly in to support your lower back. So you come as far forward as you feel comfortably. Take your shoulders back. One more time, take the bum back, push back. And then forward, pelvis forward, shoulders back and down, belly in to support you. Back onto all fours. And we're going to come to standing from here. So finding your way up to standing, ever's the easiest way up. Okay, I got that right there. Okay. So seeing how things are on 2 feet, yeah. So we've been on our back, we've been on our belly, been on all fours, but it's been a long time since we're standing. So what's the connection now between the heels, the knees, and the hips? Can you really feel that connection there? How does it feel at the front of the hips, front of the hip flexors? Is a space? How is it in the back? How does it feel in the lower back? What's the connection? So everything we do in the center affects what's going on below. Everything we do in the center affects what's going on above. So there'll be all sorts of potential changes in your body. So just registering a little bit of that. And then we'll see how we go with this next movement. So just bringing, so choosing your stable leg, then bring one knee internal rotation and do kind of like a U shape to do an external rotation and bring it back. So swinging internal, external and down, internal, external and down, internal, external and down, internal, external and down. Yeah, so it's quite a flowy one, but it takes a little bit to kind of work out what on earth's happening. And if you do too much of a swing, you fall over. And if you don't do as much of a swing, then you don't really get the benefit of that sort of ability to soften in the center. And you won't notice it, maybe, excuse me, I'm going to fall over, on this first attempt, if you only done it for the first attempt. But what we're actually doing is we're trying to move from our stable leg rather than by moving our knee, but I'll get more into that another time. Just trying to adjust to the movement, internal, external, down, internal, external, down. One more each side. Nice. And again, see how the hips feel after that kind of movement. See how the breath comes back or not. And then bring the hands into center, so more in towards the chest, more towards the sternum, more towards the heart center. Palm on palm, relax the shoulders. And just see how it is to come to a fairly more straightforward tree pose. So just choose what your stable leg is, and just taking the sole of the foot to the side of the calf, if that's kind of your thing tonight. And just then sweep the arms out to the side, sorry, up more like a Y shape, then out to the side with the palms down, and then just back to center, and relax the foot down. Get stable on both sides, and then opposite sole of the foot just to the side of the calf. Feel length through the body. That will help when we take the arms up. You might feel that extension down the sides of the body. Just get stable. Arms to the side with the palms facing down. Relax the shoulders and back into center. Brilliant. Back on 2 feet. A little bit of a shake out. Take the legs wide. Toes can come out from heels. So wider than shoulder distance. It's more as wide as you can get and sitting down. So it feels a little bit like, yeah, it feels like your tail's heading straight down, so that it's almost like a sit down, so you're not tipping either way with your pelvis here, just heading straight down towards the earth. Sweep the arms out, palms facing me, a little bit of bend in the elbow, a little bit of bend in the wrist. Open up through the chest to look up, and arms can go back a little bit if they're comfortable, and then round in the back. We know this quite well by now. Fingertips come together, look down towards the earth. So the legs stay where they are. It's just the upper back and the pelvis that do the work to create the opening. So opening, and then fingers again together, rounding. Belly goes in and pelvis goes under. Yeah, so about 3 more. Opening up, could look up if you're comfortable, and round in the back. Legs stay same position. Pelvis movement is what we're after. Hip movement. Couple more. Great. Relax the arms. Let's get the legs back together. So final check, how does it feel? What's the link to the ground? How the feet feel, how the heels, the knees, and the relationship with the hips can really be a clear sense of that connection from ground into the hips and the center of the body. How does it feel then from the pelvis up through the sacrum, up through the spine, and to the crown of the head? Just getting that sense of the body. So by working the center, we're doing work below, we're doing work above, as well as working in that specific area around the hips. So hopefully a little bit of happy hips today. So thank you for joining me, and I will send the video a little bit later on.